Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chai with Us podcast. This is episode number 60. Again, believe it or not. I am Erica, the personal developer. You can also find me online at Emotional Freedom.
Hi, and I'm Ivana from Local Isabel.
Yeah, for some reason, when I changed the thumbnails, I stopped putting the number of the episode and we just messed up last week. But that's
Hmm
okay. For you, it's episode number 60 all over again, but with a different topic. And today we're going to talk about being ourselves.
That's right. I'm really excited about this because it's a dear topic to me.
It is for me as well. It's just like I don't know. Where do you want to start? Because it's such a broad topic.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think at the beginning we need to start with being yourself as accepting who you are. And I
Mhm.
think that's very difficult for so many people.
Yeah.
Would you say that was hard for you? Have you accepted yourself or are you still working on it?
I think I have accepted myself actually. I think so. I'm still struggling, of course, because I do have my insecurities and I have my bad days.
Hmm
The thing is just before I would judge everything I feel and say,
Okay.
and now even if I judge myself, I'm
hmm
like, okay, you're human. Just
Yes.
relax. You know what I mean?
hmm
Because I don't have that acceptance where everything I do is okay, but I do
hmm
have that acceptance of, saying even if I don't do things right to my standards, which
hmm
are very, very high sometimes,
hmm
I do accept the fact that I'm not perfect.
hmm
That thing that I accept myself, right? I'm just going around,
Yeah.
but I do accept myself. I have insecurities and bad days like everyone else, where I feel like,
hmm
oh my god, like, Erika, you are such an idiot. I know that I'm
Yeah.
not, but most of the time, I accept whatever comes from me, even in regards to feelings, and I do accept who I am. It was a very long journey to
Process.
get
Yes, of
here,
course.
but I think I can say I do accept myself. How about you?
Yeah. I think for me, it's been a struggle all my life having to do with moving around so much because when
Mm,
you're little, you look for people that look like you and sound like you. And when you're
mm,
living in a foreign country, no one sounds like you and they look different than you. So I think I've always
absolutely.
very much struggled with fitting in and actually traveling has really like helped me to accept myself because
Mhm.
I would be staying in many ashrams around India or in hostels in Europe, and there you get to live with other women that are from many different cultures, and you get to see how they act and how they talk and what they look like. And I think I've just saw that we're all really the same. There's really not that many differences among us. Like we all do the same things. We all brush our teeth the same way. Like it's you know what I mean? Like there's not a
Yeah.
German way of brushing your teeth and an American way of brushing your teeth. You just brush your teeth and that's it. And I think traveling and living with many different women has really like allowed me to accept myself, but not just that, but being in India and always being invited by families to attend their functions and to come
Mhm.
along or to have a chai with them, it made me feel included and it showed me that hey, you don't have to sound like them, you don't have to look like them, but you can still be accepted for who you are because they didn't say, oh, like just because you're American or like you can't join us. That was not the case
Mhm.
at all. They like wanted to include you because they're very like community oriented. And I
Mhm.
think that really helped me to accept myself and to say, hey, I'm not a bad person or like, hey, it doesn't matter that I don't look this way or that I don't talk this way. I still feel accepted.
That's very beautiful. I noticed that in your story of acceptance, there are a lot of external facts, right?
Mhm.
You have been out of the country, you saw a lot of different people, and people had a way of saying you are accepted the way you are,
Mhm.
and I found it very beautiful. It's really nice, and I wonder, like, what was your inner journey with that? Because you could have an entire world saying that you are
Mhm.
beautiful, that you are whatever, right? The way you
Mhm.
are, but how about your inner journey? Do you recall like thinking about the situation, or it was just something natural?
I think a lot of it happened through my meditations.
Mm,
And like you also said, of like listening to that negative self-talk and not accepting it and saying,
mm,
hey, I'm not this negative self-talk. Or as soon as it happens, like turning it off.
yeah,
And like, like you're talking to yourself and you're like, oh, I don't fit in because I don't have blonde hair and light skin.
yeah,
Um, and then saying like, hey, it's okay that you look this way. So I think a
yeah,
lot of it had came through meditation for me, and
mhm,
also being in ashrams and just and having these like amazing meditations and like mantra chanting. It showed me like, hey, maybe you were like neglected a lot when you were a child because of your circumstances, and that's okay. Like, it's you can't change your past, but you
mhm.
can make your future now.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about external situations, I was, as a black girl with the hair issue, and I didn't have a lot of like people telling me, that I was worthy, that
Yeah.
I had the same difficulties as you,
Hmm.
as a third culture kid.
Yeah.
I would fit in, but I knew that I didn't belong.
Yes.
I would speak like them, but sorry, you don't look like me, right? So
Yeah.
I couldn't be white, and I can't, and I don't want to. But
Mhm.
it was just something that I couldn't do. I could fit in, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I didn't belong there because I looked different. Yeah. And then when I went to my African peers and black people friends, then I would look like them, but I wouldn't
Mhm.
speak like them. So thanks to the internet, I was able to access a lot of black women that were changing their hair, that
Okay.
were accepting themselves and embracing who they are.
Mhm.
So this was like my main thing to make me accept who I am. It
Mhm.
was like when you when you peek a little bit to see what's there on the other
Yes.
side for people who accept themselves.
Uh-huh.
That was it for me, to see other black women just being black and embracing it, and that's totally
Mhm.
fine, not feeling the need to straighten their hair
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I went through this outside transition where I was just like, I'm gonna just wear my hair
Yes.
because it's mine, and discovering how does my hair works. But
Mhm.
also I find it, at least for me, the most important thing was that I gave myself the time to know myself.
Yes.
I didn't know
Yes.
who I was. So for me, it
Mhm.
was just like this concept of acceptance was like I needed to figure out who I was before. So
Mhm.
with meditation, and also with a lot of personal growth exercise, I think I gave you the audience an exercise the other day just about, I think so, about writing things about people that you admire, and
Yes.
and
Mhm.
so in getting to know myself better, I was actually able to accept myself
Mhm.
because there was nothing to accept, and I went through this funny phase of distinguish my thoughts from other people's thoughts.
Yes. Yes.
I used to assume that whatever was in my head was pure. It was my responsibility. I thought that everything
Yeah.
was my responsibility, and sometimes it's just like your mom is speaking through
Mhm.
you, right? Or your dad, or
Mhm.
whoever did something wrong to you, whoever said something wrong, then you just keep repeating the things without even
Yes.
realizing that they're not yours. Like you wouldn't say that. So I went through this phase, and it was very interesting for me to just, separate myself from
Mhm.
everything
I
else.
I think that's so important. I remember I got into this argument with this other attorney, and it was over like he kept on saying how he wants to buy a house. And I kept on asking him, like, well, why do you want to buy a house? And he's like, well, I feel like that's the next step in my life. Like, I need to own property. And I kept asking him, like, well, do you really want to own a house? Or is that because your parents are telling you that you need to own a house and
Yeah.
your peers are telling you you need to own a house? And he couldn't answer the question, and he got very upset over it because I think it was the first time somebody asked him, like, what does he really want to do? And maybe it was the first time he ever had to
Yeah.
question himself, hey, do I really want to own a house? And same thing with me. Like, I've just grown up like, oh, like I need to have a family, I need to have kids, I need to have a house. But is that
Mhm.
really what I want? Or is that just what society has been telling me that I want? So I think it's very
Mhm.
important to separate yourself from all the other voices and to realize, like, what is my voice? Like, what do I want? And speaking of voices, like this is monumental that we're even doing this podcast for me because I used to hate the way I sounded. And before I would
Wow.
call anyone on the phone, I would write down exactly everything I was going to say so I could just read it off a piece of paper because I was
Wow.
so self conscious about my English and the way I spoke and the mistakes that I would make speaking that I like wrote
Mm.
down everything. I would even write down like tentative answers if they asked me certain questions. Like
My
I was
God.
anticipating everything. And if I had to leave a message, like I practiced like, before I would call them to leave the message
Yeah.
because I was terrified. Like I hated public speaking. I
Wow.
didn't like the way my voice sounded because I thought I sounded different. I didn't like my accent. And now that we're doing this podcast, it's almost like a 360, like it's a 180 completely like changed compared to like what I
This
used to
is
do.
so cool. I didn't know that you had this issue, and especially like you have been to law school in
Mm-hmm.
English, and
Yes.
you spent years, almost your adult
Yes.
life
Mm-hmm.
in the United States. So
Yes.
who would thought that you would have this issue? Um,
No, this was a big issue for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is interesting. And you know what? This is interesting that you mentioned that because I also had this issue, and sometimes I struggle with this issue, and then I'm like, Erika, you are so stupid. Like you speak three languages. If you make a mistake, then you've made a mistake, and that's fine, you
Exactly.
know. But I remember submitting a post to this major blog that I'm going to
Uh-huh.
be published at. Can't say it yet, but I was like, I was literally shaking, and I had to press enter, and I
Oh.
was like, whatever, whatever, because I thought like I'm not a native. This is a United
Yeah.
States huge blog, a million of people they
Hmm.
read this, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," and what? 30 minutes later, we're gonna publish this, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, thank you so much. And I'm like, okay, you see, sometimes we are, but you know what? I also think that um, accepting who you are has a lot to do with honesty
Yes.
because you're not gonna be happy with who you are
Hmm.
every day.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you'll be like, listen, yeah,
Hmm.
this wasn't a good day,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot to do with honesty, being
Hmm.
really honest with yourself,
Hmm.
right? and and yeah, and if you have a bad day and if you're not liking yourself, then say it with love, but say it. Just don't try to camouflage things
Hmm.
just because, I mean, you are with you all the time, right?
Yeah. I think
So
the reason that we have such a fear of being honest with ourselves and being authentic and showing our true selves is the fear of judgment and
mm,
the from other people.
yeah.
And have you heard that saying? It's a Japanese saying. It says that we have three faces. One you show to everybody. The second
Hmm.
one you only show to close friends and family, and the third one you never show to anybody. It's the one that's like
Oh,
inside.
wow, wow.
And I remember I love that quote when I read it because I was like, wow, I wonder like if you ever
Oh,
get to that third phase, like are you ever willing to show your third phase to
wow.
everyone?
Oh God. I think that lately, even if I try to hide, I just can't anymore.
Yeah.
I see it now being in a very loving relationship. It's just like I cannot hide. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'm like struggling and I'm fine, but then I'm like, I'm not fine, everything is wrong, It's just it's interesting how things change. And I've also made a commitment to myself that I was not going to switch so much in between
Okay.
situations. So, about 4 years ago, I think I decided that I was going to be myself at work and
Yeah.
at home and
Mhm.
whatever. Of course, I'm not at work like, but I'm myself at work. I
Mhm.
don't try to be overly professional and da da da. Like, I just, I think it's so exhausting to be different people
Yes, it
all the
is.
time. Just try to be. Why would you try so hard to be different people? Like, if you have to do such a transition, maybe you
Mhm.
are not in the right place, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're corporate, I mean, there's some certain rules that you have to follow, but to what
Mhm.
extent are you pretending that you are someone else? Like,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I think it's important in recognizing who you are is celebrate your strengths. Like it goes back to knowing yourself. Like what are you good at? What makes you come alive when you're doing it and you just are so passionate about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what makes, because when you're doing something that you love, I think it's much easier to just be yourself because you let your guard down. You're not so
Oh
worried
yeah,
about
absolutely.
how do people perceive you. You're just enjoying the activity that you're involved in.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Absolutely. This is such a beautiful topic, like to accept who you are. I think this
Hmm.
is like the if you accept who you are, right? Then I'm gonna assume that you will find love for yourself, you know?
Hmm.
If you accept who you are, you find love for yourself. And then everything is easier in life.
Hmm.
Everything. Like Jan Van Sant, I think, says, when you know who you are, nobody can tell you who you're not. I'm
Yes.
paraphrasing, but it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I've
the
heard that
message is
before.
that. And,
Hmm.
and it's so freaking true. When you know who you are, nobody can tell you who you
Hmm.
are not. You
Hmm.
walk differently, you talk differently. And, when people poke you, the response is not the same because you already know who you are. When
Hmm.
you are insecure, it's so easy to take you out of place because you don't know who you are. And
Hmm.
yeah.
And I think also it goes back to one of our topics that we discuss extensively is showing your vulnerability. Do you remember
Yeah.
that we did like two podcasts on Brent Brown's book, which I
Yeah.
still love, The Gifts of Imperfection.
Yeah.
And there she talks about how important it is to be vulnerable and to show that, because I just remember when I would go to all these speakers for law, it was when and they were all very successful lawyers, but it was when that story when they shared about a downfall or a mistake that they had made, that somewhere were times where they are vulnerable, it made them much more relatable. When it's like, wow, like this
Hmm.
accomplished person made this mistake, and look, it didn't destroy their career, like they're still very successful. I can do this too. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think it's because we always like to think that sharing our accomplishments is what makes us connect with other people. And to some extent it is, but it's actually sharing our problems, our vulnerability, our downfalls,
Yeah.
times when we really struggle, that is where people connect with us. And I think that's so what's beautiful. And we need to do more of that. We need to be
Hmm.
more open in sharing our vulnerability.
Yes, it's true. I was thinking a lot now that we live in this social media world that it grew exponentially because of lockdown and COVID. We're spending more time at home, more time on social media, and there's so much comparison, right? You look
Of
at
course.
other people, and we see the best face of everyone, and we forget that you are struggling to accept yourself because of something that you see, but we forget that we are just taking a look at the best picture of 80 pictures
Exactly.
from this
That's probably
person.
been edited many
And
times.
yes, and you're like, oh my god, I'm so fat, and then the other person has Photoshop, and you don't have
Exactly.
Photoshop. Not to say that you should be like the other person. Come on, you should be like whatever
Yeah.
you are, and you should accept it. But
But with social media, there are some accounts where the women are showing their stretch marks, they're showing their belly bulge, they're
Mhm.
showing you like, what the real people look like. And that's
Yeah,
what I love about it. So social media can go either way. I think it just
yeah,
depends on what you're following. And I think that's why it's so important to regularly take breaks away from social media and also to question like who are you following? Like periodically I'll go through my Instagram account and I will
thank
unfollow
you.
so many people. And I'm
Yes,
like, okay, these people have beautiful travel pictures, but how does it make me feel when I look at their travel pictures? Oh, I feel like awful because I'm not there and I'm not experiencing their life. Unfollow. You know what I mean? Like I have this
you are
conversation
so
with
good
myself.
at this. You're like unfollow.
No,
I love
because
it.
like I asked myself like, why am I following them? And I'm like, they're just posting pictures because like they're getting money from this hotel.
Yes,
Am I getting anything out of it? And will I
yeah,
go stay at that hotel? Most likely not. So what do I get
yeah.
out of like being bombarded with like all these little travel pictures of hotels and bars and clubs when I don't
Yeah.
plan on staying at those places? So then I just unfollow.
Yeah, it may seem crazy what you're saying. To some people, may seem crazy, but let's think that we spend a lot of time on social media, and some
Yes,
unconscious things happen, right? Even if you are not realizing, you are just scrolling, scrolling,
yes,
scrolling,
yes.
and if all you see is just negativity, or
Hmm.
you know, um th- then that's you're gonna take all of this with you, and this will
Mhm.
affect you somehow. So
Mhm.
I do the same, I do the same. I follow people, and when I see that they're like being aggressive or expressing negativity,
Mhm.
or what I see is just like there's no point of it, or it's making me think that I should be a certain way, I
Yes.
do press unfollow. I do press unfollow.
Mhm.
And like if you go to my Instagram, it's just like all bubbles and butterflies, but and some accounts like for activism, but not so many flowers there. But I do agree with you that we should
Mhm.
select, because um we use social media as we please. Like we are
Yeah.
responsible for what we see, especially now on. You can
Mhm.
choose what you see. Come on.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
so yeah. So stop comparing, because comparison is the thief of joy, and they're right.
Yes.
Brene Brown also wrote in her book. And yeah, just look at yourself, compare yourself to where you were yesterday, compare
Yes.
yourself to where you were an year ago, or 1 year
Mhm.
ago, or maybe 10 years ago. And that's what you should compare, because everyone has their rhythm of doing things. Everyone has their story.
Mhm.
I mean, and part of accepting who you are is just to recognize everything that you have been through and
Yes.
where you are right now. I mean,
Yeah, celebrate your growth. Like how
yeah.
much have you grown since the time that you last compared yourself to? And we're constantly changing. Like we're not the same people that we were yesterday, and we're definitely not
Mhm.
the same people we were 10 years ago. Like I can't even recognize myself who I used to be. And that's a good thing. It's an amazing thing.
My
And that's what
God.
needs to happen. Like you need to continue on your growth journey.
I think I'm light years from.
Is there a book that you might have read that you thought was good in helping you accept yourself or knowing who you are or questioning who you are?
A book. I'm trying
Or
to look for books. No, I really think I got it from social media and chicks from
okay.
on YouTube. Like
Hmm.
seriously, and a lot of inner work. If you do
Okay.
inner work, then you will learn how to accept yourself, because
Hmm.
it's difficult to accept yourself when there's so much noise around you. It's just like I think just going on a personal growth journey, you will learn how to accept yourself. I wouldn't suggest a book, but I would suggest starting with affirmations and meditations.
Yes,
Just
I
start
like that.
there, start there. Just give your brain a little something, something to think about, and use some affirmations. And if you don't like affirmations per se, you can add,
Hmm.
I am willing to accept
Yes.
myself. I am willing to love myself. And it's a nice place to start. I would say affirmations, meditation, as you said, writing down good things about you is amazing. Like Ivana
Absolutely.
always says this, like just write down all of your achievements, you know,
Hmm.
get to know yourself without judging, because we all had different paths of life. And so there are some things that you could not learn or
Hmm.
that you could not do, and that's totally fine. Just try to figure out if you need these things
Hmm.
today, or and if you
Hmm.
need to learn something, well, then go learn. If not, then just let's go. Like we
Yeah.
all have flaws. Nobody's is perfect, because like somehow I used to think that everybody was doing right and I was the
Except for
crazy
you.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
like
what you mean.
how special am I that everybody's doing fine at life and I'm the only one who's
That's
doing
so true.
badly.
Yeah. I think we're like our harshest critic, our harshest
Yes.
judge, our harshest critic,
Yeah.
and something that is so minute of a mistake, we blow it up into big proportions and make a big
Yes.
deal out of it when other people wouldn't even think anything of it.
Yeah.
And we are very hard on ourselves. I
We
think because
are.
we want to be, at least for me, it's like this belief of like being perfect is maybe I'll fit in and I'll finally belong into this thing
Yeah.
that I'll never belong to because I'm me. I'm never gonna fit in to be that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we're so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. But it's a beautiful path to to go and see what happens, getting to know yourself for real, being honest. And I think that all of this acceptance has a lot to do. And also some things may seem very uncomfortable, you know, accepting who you are doesn't always come with, oh, I love myself so much. Sometimes it's just like you have something that you don't like, and then you can decide to change or accept the thing, right? And some things that you are, I'm thinking about an example, and I'm like, is this too much to share? But I'm going to share it anyway. Okay, so I'm really trying to embrace um, my body and everything that it's a part of it,
Okay.
including like hair. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in our society, we are so obsessed about women having to have their
Uh-huh.
legs shaved
Yes.
and their armpits shaved. And so one day I was at the beach with my partner, and I was like, um, I got hair under my armpits, and he was like, me too. And I was like, okay, this is so effing true. Yeah, you
Yes.
too. Nobody says anything. Why should I be bothered about having
Yeah.
hair? So I'm just exploring, you know. I'm like, this is so uncomfortable because this is so
Because
people.
society looks down upon it and makes
Yeah,
you like if you're a woman you
exactly.
absolutely have to like not have any hair, but if you're a
Yeah,
man you must have hair.
exactly. And I look down upon me. I do it to myself,
Yeah.
you know? And so, and I'm like, I'm gonna wear hair on my and I'm gonna wear it until I feel comfortable about it. You know,
Yeah.
on some days I do forget about it, you know, because this is part of accepting who you are. Like
Yes.
these little things. I know this is a little bit of extreme to some people, but think about it. It's your body. It's your
Yeah.
body. It's hair. Come on.
Mhm.
And it's just like these little things that they look little, but they are so big because I mean it liberates you, right? For me,
Mhm.
the hair thing was just a liberation because I mean,
Yeah.
this is me, this is natural. Like, it's like the hair here. Now everybody knows that I have hair under my armpit. But
No, it's so true.
you know, this is one of the things that nobody talks about this, right? Some people
Mhm.
on Instagram are like, ha ha, here's my hair. But besides them,
Yeah.
everybody seems this situation like we are so like we should be males, like, you know, very
Yeah.
masculine because we like hair. No, it's just we're just trying to be natural and
It's so
normal.
funny that you mentioned this because yesterday I saw a picture of Ashley Judd. You know her? She's an actress.
I
Um,
okay,
she's
but
done a
yeah.
lot of different movies and she's very famous here in the US. And they're like, Ashley Judd has the armpit hair, like she lets it all out, like more power to her. And so I go to look at the picture and it's literally like she's not shaved in maybe like a day or two. Like it's just a little bit. Like I was
You
thinking I was
see?
gonna like arm hair and it's literally like she has not maybe shaved in like 2 days and it's barely there. And I was like, wow, like this is ridiculous. I can't even believe that they made a whole article about this.
Right, like look at the amount of pressure that we have to be something that we are not, and to be
Mm-hmm.
like and everything is about um how can I explain? It's just like you have to straighten, yeah, you have
Straighten
to
your hair.
burn, you have
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
burn, you have to cut, you
Yeah.
have to take, it's
Yeah.
just ah okay, I'm not doing that anymore, okay. Oh boy, but yeah,
I think
um
it's, like the everything goes back to where we originally started is with yoga, like knowing yourself, because yoga really gets you to that connection of like who you are. Like who you are on your mat is who you are in society and in life.
mhm.
I think through meditation, you also start to like really ask yourself, like, who am I as a person? And I love this. This was by like a yoga teacher, and I wish I remembered her name, but she said, your purpose is your wound. And I thought that was like a really like
Deep.
deep thing because I never heard that before and never thought about it. But I think in some way she's right. I think because I started asking myself, well, like, where is my wound? And my wound, I think, so much has to do with like being an immigrant and not fitting in and not
Mm.
belonging,
Mhm.
and finally finding a place where I belong. And maybe my life is to actually work with immigrants. So I'm gonna look into that.
Oh, that's so cool. I like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Because I've been like, I feel like this entire year, I'm like, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And I tried this one path that didn't work out. I tried another thing, it didn't really work out. Like, I just didn't care about them. But I really care. I've always found myself to be a person that's very inclusive, and I always want people to feel included in my group, wherever they're from. And I
Mhm.
like go out of my way if we're like sitting at a table to make everyone feel like they're included, because I know what it's like when you're not included. I know what it's like to be an outsider and to feel unwanted. And it's not a nice feeling. And so I think I love for other people to feel like they belong and that they fit in and that it's okay to be themselves.
You're gonna do an amazing job at it. It just sounds like you have accepted your purpose.
Yeah. Yay, another thing this podcast gave me.
Da, 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 da. This podcast is amazing. Like I have so
Yes.
many insights here, and I have so many aha moments here. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes I don't even remember what I said, and then I
And
go
then you
to
listen to it,
the
you're like, wow, I said that.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's just yeah, it's an amazing journey, and you are right. This podcast also helped me accept who I am.
Hmm.
Accept the way I speak, the way I'm all over the place. First times I saw a recording, I'm like, oh my god, stop moving, don't talk too much, and stuff like that. And I'm just like, whatever. This has been
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, so if you want to accept yourself, just do a podcast, put yourself out
Yes.
there, and don't give a damn because it will help you accept yourself a little
It's
bit
true.
more. Yes. Okay.
I don't
Um,
really have anything else.
I don't know. I think it's such a personal journey for everybody,
Hmm.
but I think we gave people like a good solid ground to start, I
Yeah.
think. So I think we can wrap it up here. If you like this episode, please like and share it with friends and tell us what you thought about it.
Yes. Would love to hear your opinion. What are you drinking today?
Don't ask me that. You decide to ask me that today? Seriously? I didn't know I have a thing where I don't like to lie. Okay, so I'm drinking water, everybody.
There
I'm
you go.
sorry.
It's good. I'm
Mm.
drinking kombucha.
Oh, I have a friend who's doing a workshop on that.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I was going to drink tea,
Okay.
but I'm so hot. I just can't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mm. Well, everybody, that's a wrap. You already know that I drink water. Just today, it's the only day where I don't have. You asked because you were drinking
I
kombucha and
already
you
knew.
wanted to say,
I already
"Hey,
knew.
I am drinking kombucha. Look at me. I'm so fancy. What are you drinking, Erica? Oh, water. Oh, you see? My God. Now I have to accept that.
Did you drink water like all the other
I'm
humans on this
I'm
planet?
less than you because you had kombucha and I have
Oh,
water.
please. Please, the other time you had wine and I was drinking tea, so it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay. See, everybody. That's an example of how to work through your acceptance levels. Okay, that's a wrap. You don't have to listen to our entire conversations.
Bye.
See you next week.